Hello, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Eddie Jones is set to be sacked as England head coach. Those are the reports in all of the newspapers this morning here in the UK. So in this video, I'm going to get into all of that. I'm going to explain where I think he's gone wrong, particularly towards the end of his tenure, if this is to be the end of his time with England. But also ask the question, do England have a better chance of winning the World Cup next year with or without Eddie Jones? Because I'm not so sure they do if they are going to get rid of him. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and also like the video as well. It goes a really, really long way. All right, let's get into it. So the reports in all of the newspapers today here in the UK is that today or tomorrow Eddie Jones is going to be sacked by the RFU. That decision is going to be ratified in the next day or so, and that he's going to be replaced by Steve Borthwick. I'm not going to go too much into who's going to replace him in this video. I'm going to wait until we have an announcement, see what they say, and then I'll do another video later this week in terms of what is next for England. In this video, it's more about the here and now, Eddie Jones set to be sacked, and why I think that is one reason in particular. I mean, on the one hand, if you look at the bare statistics, it's quite obvious. It's what England's worst year since 2008. They've only won 5 of the 12 test matches they've played, including only 1 victory against a pretty poor Japan side in the autumn that we've just seen. They lost to Argentina. They drew against the All Blacks, which was a great comeback, but wasn't the best performance up until that comeback. And also then they had a pretty disappointing performance against the Springboks in their final game. But I actually think the biggest mistake Eddie Jones has made, certainly in the last couple of years, is what is perceived as a disregard for the fans. Whether he does disregard them or not, it has consistently come across that he doesn't care what they think. They were booing after the South Africa game, which you don't often hear that kind of reaction at Twickenham. I asked him after that game, because I was pitch side for radio. So in my post-match interview, I asked him, there were boos at the end, can you understand the sympathy of the fans? And he just said, I didn't hear that. Then in his press conference as well, when he was speaking to the wider journalists, more of the newspaper journalists, he basically came out with the phrase, I don't care what people think. Whether that was directed at the media or the fans, it's fed into this narrative that he's got a bit of a disregard for everyone else outside of that England setup. And it was very, I think, jarring for the RFU, because the RFU statement after the autumn, after the Springboks defeat, was very revealing, in that one of the first lines in it, they said, we care what the fans think. So I think they are very aware of a apathy seeping into the fan base in regards to Eddie Jones, because Eddie Jones is consistently saying he doesn't really care about games in terms of the autumn and Six Nations. It's all about the World Cup. England fans were consistently being told that hundreds of pounds, in some cases thousands of pounds, they're spending to go and watch the team at Twickenham. Well, the games don't matter because it's about the World Cup anyway. And I think the RFU could stomach that for a while if performances were good enough, but they've been poor enough on a consistent basis that the fans, and apparently ticket sales have been quite slow for the upcoming Six Nations. I think the RFU are very aware of how the fans have felt and how that has just been a really bad look for the national team. And I think that's at least part of the reason why they've decided to pull the trigger now. Because as I say, England fans have been told that it doesn't matter, and it should matter, and these games do mean something. Ask anyone at Twickenham, they want to see England put in a performance, and they want to see them win. They want to see them build and win a World Cup as well, but that's not at the expense of surrendering all results and performance in the 3 or 4 years between that. Let's get on to performance as well, because we can't deny it. I mentioned the 5 wins in 12 tests this year. It's been really poor, but frankly, it's been poor since the 2019 World Cup final. During COVID, I think England did win a Six Nations, didn't they, when then there were no fans in, or certainly there was a reduced fans. They won it on points difference, but it was pretty uninspiring play. Again, they also won the Autumn Nations Cup that year during COVID. The play wasn't that great. Again, they beat a very much kind of second string French team in the final of that. And the performances have never been consistently that good. They haven't shown up against the big boys. And in Eddie Jones's first 4 years, you think about how he came in after the 2015 World Cup. They did a Six Nations Grand Slam. They went on a run of 18 wins in a row, including a clean sweep of Australia, the first time in English rugby history that they went down under, and they beat the Wallabies 3-0. Then they got to the 2019 World Cup final, playing some really great stuff before losing to South Africa. But since then, it just hasn't been the same. And I think we've seen a bit of a different manner in Eddie Jones as well. I remember that first year he came in 2016 Six Nations. England had a really disappointing 2015 World Cup on home soil. But he came in, I think they beat Scotland in their first game in a pretty tight arm wrestle of a match. And they were playing Italy next. And I still remember it in his post-match interview. Eddie Jones, because they'd just won the Calcutta Cup, said something along the lines of, we'll go to Italy next week and we'll win the Panini Cup or whatever they win it there. He was so bolshy, he was so aggressive, a little bit arrogant, but probably in a good way at the time for the team in terms of just dictating where they were going. I think we've seen a little bit less of that, and the performances have been really, really disappointing. We've been consistently told that we're going to see a new attacking game plan from England where shirt numbers don't mean anything, and it's going to be an attacking style that we've never seen before in rugby union. And it's just failed to materialise. And Eddie Jones will keep saying that he sees the building blocks there. They'll be all right at the World Cup. And the players, I think, have believed that as well. They've also peddled that narrative. But from our perspective, anyone outside of that setup, we have not seen the progress that we are being told is going to come and is there, particularly, I think, in an attacking sense. I still think England have been quite physical. Their defence, I think, has been okay at times. Their set piece has been okay at times. But particularly from an attacking sense, it just hasn't flowed at all. It's been very, very difficult to get excited about. So that's been a key area. But it brings me on to the final question, the question I posed at the top of this video. Do England have a better chance of winning the World Cup with or without Eddie Jones? Now, if we look at recent performances, of course, it's without him. The squad haven't been going forward. They don't seem to be promising what they have been in terms of performance and building for the World Cup. But I honestly struggle to come to a conclusion that they have a better chance. In particular, if Steve Borthwick is coming in, I think he's a coach that takes time. I think he's a brilliant coach. I don't think he's an immediately gives you a bounce kind of coach. I think we've seen that with Leicester. He's built them very, very gradually and very steadily. Hasn't ever had the top job in international rugby either. And I think regardless of what you think of Eddie Jones, and England fans are completely justified in their frustrations of the last couple of years, but he has a track record of doing it at World Cups. He did it with the Aussies in 2003. He was part of the South Africa backroom staff that did it in 2007. And he did it with England in 2019. And honestly, I'm not sure England do have a better chance of winning the World Cup replacing him. I think based upon performance, I think based upon the apathy of the fans, I can completely understand, and it's probably the correct decision. In terms of winning the World Cup next year, that's where I have a much, much bigger question mark. And you might think I'm crazy for thinking that, but let me know in the comments down below. Is there something there? This might be the right decision for English rugby. It seems like we have sort of ground to the end of the Jones tenure. When it comes to the World Cup, though, do they have a better chance of winning it? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'll do another video later this week when we know more about what the RFU plans are for moving forward, if it's going to be Steve Borthwick or whatever it may be. Or imagine if this all turns around and Eddie Jones actually just keeps his job and takes it through to the World Cup next year. That would actually be quite funny. Let me know what you think down below. If you are new here as well, please subscribe to the channel, and also remember to like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.